I meet a lot of people in my lines of work, and some of my closest friends, they make fun of me for going to church. Like, why do you need to go to church? I'm a good person. I believe in Jesus. I believe in God. So why do I have to be a Christian?
So, if I love Jesus and I love God, why does it matter to claim to be Christian?
And when I say why do I have to be, not why do I have to, because why do I have to tell people I'm a Christian? Why do I have to make that a part of my life? Why can't I just be me?
The short answer is because other people need to know. They need the same salvation you found. And if we don't claim Christianity because I'm not saying this is why you wouldn't, but if we don't claim Christianity because we don't want to offend other people or we don't want to turn somebody else off, then we fail to give them access to or direction to the salvation they need. In fact, let me do it this way. If I do it this way, people are here on this side of a cliff. But on the other side of the canyon over here is God. Now, I don't think people realize that they're separated from God like that. What has separated people from God is sin, right? Sin separates us from God. That's what happened in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve had everything, perfect place, no sin, no sorrow, no sickness, no death, but they chose against God. And when they did, that's sin. That's what sin is called. A lot of people want to think that sin is like something heinous, like murder or, robbing or whatever. But the truth is sin is violating a known law of God, a willful transgression of a known law of God. Now, if we reject God, we're just living over here thinking everything's good until things get bad. And then we don't know what to do with it because we don't have any context to work with. When God's over here saying, hey, I want you to come join me. But how do we do that? Because there's this whole chasm, there's this whole canyon of sin. When you claim to be a Christian, what you're doing is you're teaching people that there is actually a bridge. There's actually a bridge between these two that they didn't know was there. And the bridge is Jesus. Because Jesus covered sin when he died on a cross. So as a believer, I have to claim Jesus in order for people to know he's the way. But if I just say, I'm going to do this, as a non-believer, if I say, no, I believe in Jesus, but I never do anything about it, or I never receive him, or I never let him change my life, then what have I done? I'm still over here, and I'm saying, yeah, I believe. But I'm not making the journey to God. I'm not using the bridge Jesus gave me. I think that what some people are trying to do when they say, I don't want to have to claim, I just want to be me, I don't want to have to claim Jesus. What they're trying to say is, I still want to live in this, but I want to act like I'm claiming this. When somebody finally realizes, I need God, but I don't know how to get to him, this is the answer to that. Jesus is how you get to God when you finally realize you need him. Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life. This is in the Gospel of John. And no one comes to the Father except by me. So Jesus gives us the way to find truth and life and find our way to God the Father. So that's why we claim Christianity.
And I think the reason I bring this up, and politically I'll say that it's not always, picking a religion isn't always the best way to go.
Right.
When you're doing the numbers, you think Christian, that's got to be the one, right?
Right.
But so a lot of folks really just kind of stay quiet on the issue.
Right.
And I don't believe in bringing religion into politics, but your values do come in. But that's why I was asking the question, because so many elected officials I know, they want to pretend that Christianity's not that important, or at least not in their life, because they don't want to offend other people.
Right.
And I guess for me, it's trying to. I don't think being a Christian is offensive, and I just didn't know if you had any advice for broaching that subject as a. And I guess there are people in the business world that might have the same thing. You know, people that have to use pronouns in their emails. Maybe that's an issue.
Right.
And how would you, in the professional world, how would you deal with this demonstration of bridging the gap?
I don't think, just to be quite frank about it, I don't think you lead in a relationship with Jesus. Mm-hmm. I think you lead with living a life that Jesus called you to. Watch. Let's talk just a minute about this. This is the plan of salvation, right? Mm-hmm. That's how people say it. Let's talk a minute about grace. Because grace does something different. There is grace that God gives us that tells us we need to head toward God, right? So there's grace that draws us in this direction. But then we're not good at it. When we first ask Jesus to forgive us, we're not good at it. We still, all the stuff we're not supposed to do, we're still doing.
Right.
You know, but grace tells us we at least need to take the journey, right? So we're taking the journey. We're headed this direction toward God. But grace helps us. Eventually, we get better at it, and grace leads us even further along. This is a thing, let me say it this way. The decision to come up here, when you accept Jesus as your Savior, that decision is an event. There's a moment when I choose to step up on that cross and say, I'm going to believe in this. Growing in grace until I actually become like God, that's a process. And if we're living out this process, then people see Jesus in us long before we tell them about Jesus in us. If we tell them about Jesus in us while we're still standing over here, that rings as hypocrisy. It rings as just not real, because it's not. You haven't taken the journey. But if we're on the journey and they can see that process taking place, then we speak to them about Jesus, then I think that they're open to hear, because they see something in our lives that's not common in everybody else's life.
And you're talking about grace, and you're talking about this journey. Mm-hmm. And I this is sometimes why I like talking to you, because as a pastor, you're like, yeah, it's linear.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not really linear, because there's a lot of
No.
You drew it very linear.
I don't mean that to sound that way, because what we tend to do is jump back and forth.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
it's not always. It's progressive.
Hopefully.
It progresses forward, but it's not linear.
Okay. Because
there's always. I love. There's a book by Chuck Swindoll that I bought years ago. Mm-hmm. It's called 3 Steps Forward, 2 Steps Back. And the point he's making is, you're not always just progressing forward. There are times where you're dropping back. But what you want to get is 3 steps forward to every 2 steps back.
Right.
So that you're making some progress. It's not straight linear.
Okay. Because
but
I know in my travels, it's like, am I starting?
No.
And when you draw this, I know this is a goal, but is this a place you think can be reached prior to you passing?
I would love to have that conversation with you with a different drawing.
Okay. Very interesting.